Where do we go when we die? It's one of humanity's oldest questions. Across nearly every culture, every religion, and every age of human history, people have looked to the sky and wondered what lies beyond this life. And almost universally, civilizations have imagined an idyllic realm of peace and perfection, an eternal paradise. This vision echoes through many of the world's predominant religions, where heaven is described as the ultimate reward, the place where suffering ends and harmony begins. But not every depiction of heaven is the paradise you might expect. In fact, in some traditions, heaven isn't endless peace at all. It's strange, unsettling, and even exhausting. Today we're going to be diving into the world's visions of the afterlife, taking a closer look at how different cultures, religions, and mythologies perceive life after death. Let's dive into it. Christianity. In Christianity, heaven is more than just a reward. It's the very kingdom of God. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And the book of Revelation paints a vivid picture of this promise. The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. Basically, the book of Revelation describes a holy city, the New Jerusalem, descending from the heavens, a place of unimaginable beauty and perfection, with streets paved with gold, walls adorned with precious stones, and light that shines not from the sun or moon, but from God himself. Beautiful, right? But while the imagery sounds alluring, many Christian traditions emphasize that heaven is less about physical beauty and more about union with God. As Jesus said in the Gospel of John, "And this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent." From this perspective, heaven isn't simply a place. It's the fulfillment of divine love, eternal life, peace, and joy in the presence of God himself. Islam. In Islam, heaven is called Jannah, meaning the garden, and the Quran describes it as a place of eternal peace, reward, and closeness to Allah. Indeed, the righteous will be in gardens and rivers, in a seat of honor near a sovereign, perfect in ability. Indeed, Allah will admit those who believe and do righteous deeds to gardens beneath which rivers flow. They will be adorned therein with bracelets of gold and pearls, and their garments therein will be silk. In it are rivers of water unaltered, rivers of milk whose taste never changes, rivers of wine delicious to those who drink, and rivers of purified honey. Jannah is pictured as a paradise of abundance, lush gardens, flowing rivers, fruits within reach, and pavilions of silver and gold, a place where the righteous recline on couches lined with silk, free from pain and sorrow. Islamic tradition also describes multiple levels of paradise, with Al-Firdaus as the highest, lying directly beneath the throne of God and reserved for prophets, martyrs, and the most faithful. But just like with Christianity, the ultimate reward is not merely physical beauty. The highest joy of paradise is the eternal nearness to Allah, and, according to Hadith, the ability to behold him. Buddhism. In Buddhism, heaven is real, but it is not the final goal. Rather, it is one step along the greater path toward enlightenment and release from the cycle of rebirth. The Buddhist cosmos describes many Deva realms, heavenly worlds where beings live for eons in beauty, pleasure, and peace. The Digha Nikaya outlines these celestial realms, where gods and spirits dwell free from hunger, pain, or suffering. One of the most famous is the Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha. That land is filled with fragrant trees, adorned with jewels, and birds whose songs expound the Dharma. Rivers of water, clear and sweet, flow through golden channels, and the ground is made of lapis lazuli. In that realm, there is no suffering, no evil paths, and no distraction, only bliss and the path to awakening. Basically, Buddhist heavens are pictured as worlds of serene beauty, lotus lakes glowing with light, jeweled trees sparkling like stars, and a landscape filled with the Dharma itself. In the Pure Land, beings are reborn by Amitabha's grace and are surrounded by the perfect conditions to achieve enlightenment. But Buddhist teaching is also clear about another thing, that even these heavens are impermanent. When the vast lifespans of the devas expire, they too return to the cycle of rebirth, which is why, in Buddhism, heaven is not the ultimate goal. The highest aim is nirvana, freedom from rebirth altogether, the extinguishing of suffering and the realization of ultimate truth. Ancient Greece and Rome. In Greek and Roman thought, the afterlife was not the same for everyone. Ordinary souls were said to wander the shadowy halls of Hades, a place of gloom and forgetfulness. But for the exceptional, the heroes, the virtuous, the chosen few, there was something far greater: Elysium. The poet Homer describes Elysium in the Odyssey. But the gods will send you to the Elysian plain, at the ends of the earth, where life is easiest for men. No snow is there, nor heavy storm, nor ever rain, but ocean sends up blasts of the west wind that blow cool for the refreshment of men. Later writers like Pindar and Virgil expand on this vision. Meadows ever blooming, sunlight that never fades, and a life of peace and joy. The Aeneid describes the fields of the blessed, where the great souls of the past dwell in harmony, practicing music, philosophy, and heroic pursuits without end. Basically, Elysium was imagined as a paradise of eternal spring, green fields, clear rivers, and the company of the noble dead. Heroes like Achilles, Orpheus, and Anchises were believed to dwell there, honoured forever for their deeds. But what's important to note is that this paradise was not for everyone, as the ancient Greeks had a much more exclusive view of this idyllic place. Unlike Christianity or Islam, where heaven is offered to all the faithful, Elysium was reserved only for a chosen minority: heroes, poets, and those favoured by the gods. For most souls, the afterlife remained a grey and joyless existence in Hades. In Greek and Roman thought, heaven was not universal. It was a reward for greatness, honour, and glory, a vision of paradise reserved for the few, while the many remained in shadow. Norse mythology. In the Norse tradition, the afterlife was shaped not by faith or morality, but by honour and courage in battle. The most glorious reward of all was entry into Valhalla, the hall of the slain. The poetic Edda describes it vividly. 500 doors and 40 there are, I ween, in Valhalla's walls. 800 fighters through one door fare, when they go to fight with the wolf. Spears are the rafters of the hall. It is roofed with shields, and breastplates litter the benches. Basically, Valhalla was pictured as a vast, shining hall in Asgard, ruled by Odin. The bravest warriors, chosen by Valkyries from the battlefield, feasted and drank mead in its great chamber. Every day they fought one another in glorious combat, and every night their wounds healed so they could feast again. But while Valhalla remains the end goal for many subscribed to the Nordic tradition, what's important to remember here is that Valhalla was a paradise of war. The fallen heroes, or Einherjar, trained daily in preparation for Ragnarok, the final battle of the gods. Their afterlife was an endless cycle of combat and celebration, glory and bloodshed. Valhalla also wasn't the only warrior's heaven. Half of the honoured dead went instead to Folkvangur, the field of the goddess Freya, described in the Grimnismal as equally noble and desirable. So in Norse thought, heaven wasn't about rest, but about eternal honour. It was the ultimate reward for warriors who embraced courage in life, and continued that courage forever in death. Ancient Egypt. In ancient Egyptian belief, the afterlife was not an abstract heaven, but a continuation of life itself, perfected and eternal. The righteous would enter the field of reeds, Aru, a paradise that mirrored Egypt at its most fertile and abundant. The Book of the Dead gives us glimpses of this vision. I shall sit under the branches of the trees, in the field of reeds, in the presence of the gods who dwell there. I know the names of the gates and the gods who guard them. Grant me passage, for I am pure. The field of reeds was pictured as an ideal Egypt, boundless fields under a golden sun, the Nile's waters gleaming, crops that grew effortlessly, and harmony with family and ancestors. The soul could fish, farm, and feast forever, but without hunger, sickness, or toil. But the catch here was that entry into this paradise wasn't guaranteed. The deceased first faced judgment in the Hall of Ma'at. Here, their heart was weighed against the feather of truth, and if it was light, free from sin, they passed into eternity. But if it was heavy, burdened with guilt, their soul was devoured by Amit, the eater of the dead. With those summaries out of the way, it should now be a little clearer that heaven isn't something you can always expect, and not every vision of heaven is a place you'd actually want to go. The Norse Valhalla, for example, means fighting and dying every single day, only to do it again tomorrow. In Buddhist cosmology, heavenly realms are full of pleasure, but ultimately dangerous, because the bliss distracts souls from reaching true enlightenment. Ancient Egyptians imagined the field of reeds as an eternal mirror of earthly life. Fertile, yes, but also full of endless labor. So, what does heaven really look like? For Christians, it's a shining city of God. For Muslims, it's a garden of paradise. For Buddhists, it's a step on the path to liberation. For Greeks and Norse, it's a reward for heroes. And for Egyptians, it's the perfection of earthly joys. Sure, across cultures, the imagery changes. Golden streets, jeweled trees, fields of reeds, mead halls, jade palaces, etc. But in essence, it's mostly the same, with heaven serving as the highest vision of joy, peace, and completion that humans can imagine. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you want more depictions of heaven, or maybe even depictions of hell, then let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, heaven may be paradise, or mystery, or something we cannot yet imagine. But until we cross that final threshold, it remains the greatest question of all.